we're seeing some of those first signs of what it looks like for people who are already living on razor-thin margins to now have a lot less and to not know where the next shoe is going to drop. They're a little more antsy. Doesn't matter when you get there. You're still going to get food. We've never run out of food. Wow. But there's more sense of a scarcity. And there's a lot more quickly to get into sort of arguments with one another and sort of get the, oh, I grabbed the orange juice first. No, it's not yours. And and our coordinators are saying, wait, we've got more orange juice. I'll go grab you both an orange juice. And also, it sounds like maybe you're you okay? You need two? Right? So we're doing a lot more of that kind of work.
This is Hourglass, the podcast for United Way of King County in Seattle. Coming up, a conversation with Tiffany Kelly-Gray of Byrd Barr Place, a Seattle-based nonprofit that offers essential services, including food, shelter, and financial tools for residents in the Seattle area. As rising food prices and cuts to federal nutrition programs are impacting people's ability to put healthy meals on the table, Byrd Barr Place provides innovative ways to meet community needs. We'll chat with Tiffany about the organization's efforts to address food insecurity, the current state of need in our communities, and about Byrd Barr Place's upcoming Legacy in Motion Gala. We'll also talk about our upcoming Happy Hour in Hello's event and a local volunteer opportunity. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for tuning in. United Way of King County prioritized addressing hunger well before the COVID-19 pandemic drove up food prices to historic levels, and before recent federal legislation threatened people's eligibility for SNAP benefits. Not only have we provided programs like Breakfast After the Bell and home grocery delivery, but we've also supported and partnered with organizations that are well equipped to address the food needs of our communities because they've been doing so for years. Those organizations include Byrd Barr Place, a Seattle-based nonprofit that offers essential services, including food, shelter, and financial tools for residents in the Seattle area. Byrd Barr Place has been meeting those needs since its inception in 1964 as Central Area Motivation Program, or CAMP. The organization was launched by a group of Black pastors from the Central District that sought to capitalize on the energy created by the Civil Rights Movement. The organization changed its name to Byrd Barr Place in 2018 in honor of Roberta Byrd Barr, a civil rights leader, educator, and journalist who worked with the organization in the 1960s and 1970s. But what's gone unchanged is the organization's commitment to moving people from poverty to self-sufficiency in the Seattle area and to build the political strength and economic wealth of the Black community statewide. As concerns grow in our community over how to meet nutrition needs with budgets already stretched thin, Byrd Barr Place serves households with a food bank called The Market. Set up like a grocery store, The Market is free to the public and open 3 days a week. People can stop by and shop for healthy foods and non-grocery essentials at no cost, with no paperwork to complete and no questions asked. Many items on the market's shelves are provided by local growers and grocers. They include fresh produce, meat, dairy products, bread, canned and other non-perishable goods, household and personal items such as shampoo, toothpaste, and paper towels, as well as formula and baby supplies. And at times when residents often must choose between paying the bills for utilities or keeping food on the table, Byrd Barr Place's energy assistance programs provide low-income households with the resources to pay energy bills, refuel oil tanks, repair or replace furnaces, and receive new air conditioning units. United Way of King County proudly supports Byrd Barr Place, which is a member of our Black Community Building Collective, a coalition of Black-led organizations brought together by United Way to build relationships, share best practices, and implement strategies with United Way funding. Hourglass recently sat down with Tiffany Kelly-Gray, Byrd Barr Place's Director of Strategic Initiatives, to talk about the organization's history, its efforts to address food insecurity, the current state of need in our communities, and its upcoming Legacy in Motion fundraising gala. Here's what Tiffany had to say.
people are often surprised to find that Byrd Barr Place is a community action agency. So we were started in 1964 as part of the war on poverty. I've been told that the expectation was that that would take 10 years to eradicate. And here we are. At the time, there were 4 pillars to that program. There was food, there was shelter, there was water, and there was heat. So the food bank, shelter was rental assistance or housing assistance. Water was access to clean water. And that was provided in a few different ways over the years before that program was ended. And then heat is what people know of as our LIHEAP program or utility discount program, also called the energy assistance program. They're all the same thing.
And talk about the approach to your work with your programs.
Yeah. So because we were founded as an anti-poverty organization, the original thought was provide basic needs, right? A safety net, which is often the term that's sort of thrown about for those sort of programs, or used, maybe not thrown about for those sorts of programs. So the thought was meet people when they're really having a hard time, provide them a leg up, right? Mm-hmm. The way we have started to think about that work differently is to move upstream and not just meet people when they're already having a hard time, but interrupt those things that cause the harm so that we can stop people landing into poverty.
Sure.
Yeah.
And can you just talk specifically about the work you do to support communities with food?
Yeah, thank you for asking. The market is most, including myself, our favorite part of Byrd Barr Place. It's a great space. There's always, tens of volunteers in there. We've got great coordinators who work to keep the market going. The market is a choice option food bank. So instead of the model where you perhaps stand in line and someone gives you a prepackaged bag of food or something like that, you come in, you either bring your own bags or we give you bags and you shop. But at the end, no one asks you for payment and you go about your business. It's our easiest low barrier to one of our programs. There's no questions around your income. There's no questions around where you live. It is just food. We source most of our food locally. A lot of BIPOC local farmers grow our produce. And that's intentional, so we can provide food that our community wants to eat and knows how to prepare. We have adopted over the years, as we've seen the rise in the unhoused population, what we call a no-cook bag, which is a bag of food that you don't need access to running water or heat to prepare. And it often comes with toiletries, and it always has water.
Okay.
So often there's a roll of toilet paper. There's a bottle or two of water, usually a bottle of water and a soda. And then there's tons of snacks. We really try to lean in on protein. So there's often peanut butter cups and things like that. A cup of noodles tend to find their way in there. Things like that. We also offer our diaper bank, which we just started last year, which was from a need. We'd hired a person in the community who said, I used to come here and it was really hard that you guys didn't have diapers. And she'd come on as our receptionist. And our director of operations, Tremaine Edwards at the time, came to me and he said, "Can we get diapers?" And I said, "Yeah, I think we can figure out a way to get diapers." So it started with diapers. And now, as the need has grown, or at least as there has been more of an opportunity for people who come to get the diapers to tell us what else they need, now we provide wipes and ointment for diaper rash creams and things like that. We provide food. We provide formula if that's what families are using or needing. And that is a recent addition. Our food bank, because of the way that we are structured, and I mean structured in terms of, you come and you get food between Tuesday and Thursday from our food bank. Those are our hours. We're open those 3 days. Not everyone can make it, right? It's during regular business hours. And some people who need access to food, in particular our aging population, can't necessarily get to us. So we also do a home delivery. And that program has grown significantly from, in my time, for about 24, I believe it was 24 home deliveries a week to now well over 150. And last year, we provided about 500,000 pounds of food. I say about, but we know exactly how much because we have to keep track. And this year, at the end of June, we'd already provided 500,000 pounds of food.
How far in our area do your services reach?
We provide food for all of Seattle.
Okay. And how critical is the need among the people you serve? And what have you been seeing in those communities? I think you touched on it a little bit, but you can just go into that a little bit more.
Yeah. Are you asking particularly for food? Or
Yes.
Yes. The need is growing, with the recent cuts to federal funding, whether that be SNAP benefits directly or whether that be other benefits. Therefore, those food budgets have gotten really small, and they were already really small. So we're seeing an increased need. We're seeing, like I just mentioned, the 500,000 pounds of food in 1 year is now half a year. And I expect that we'll go over 1 million before this year is over, pounds of food, which is just an impossible, it's just impossible to imagine. What we're also experiencing, though, is while the population that we serve had always had a significant amount of unhoused people, what we're seeing is a lot more trauma in that group. And that's not just unhoused folks, which we expect to have some trauma because being outside and not having a home causes trauma. But we're seeing it in a lot more of our clients. And I think that we're seeing some of those first signs of what it looks like for people who are already living on razor-thin margins to now have a lot less and to not know where the next shoe is going to drop. So we're seeing, they're a little more antsy. They stand in line for our food bank, although they don't have to. Doesn't matter when you get there. You're still going to get food. We've never run out of food. Wow. But there's more sense of scarcity. And there's just a lot more quickly to get into sort of arguments with one another and sort of get I grabbed the orange juice first. No, it's not yours. And and our coordinators are saying, wait, we've got more orange juice. I'll go grab you both an orange juice. And also, it sounds like maybe you're you okay? You need two? Right? So we're doing a lot more of that kind of work just because they're scared.
And you talk about people wanting diapers and you filled that diaper need. What have you been hearing in terms of food? The kinds of needs you filled there. Someone says, can you give me a little bit more of this? And we just talked about the orange juice.
Yeah.
What are you seeing from there?
Yeah. So there is a need for more toiletries, feminine hygiene products, things like that. And that has been there since before the federal cuts, because we know that a lot of the programs don't provide very much in cash. So, you can't buy shampoo, conditioner, body wash, things like that. A bar of soap, deodorant, toothbrushes. So that need has always been there. It's paced up, but it hasn't grown in a huge way. But what we're seeing, because we're seeing some changing demographics for our food bank, is we're seeing a lot of elderly people are utilizing it in a different way and a lot more. We're seeing a lot more people coming in after work. They come in and you can tell they just left their office and they're trying to get there before we close, and they're shopping and they're subsidizing their budget, right? Because those margins have become thinner. With our population who is either unhoused or unstably housed, we tend to see a request for things that we would call junk food.
Okay.
We see that requested. The cauliflower, they can't cook it. They don't need it. And they're also looking for something that feels good. This just feels good. It feels good to drink a Coke. It's cold. That's great. You guys have slices of pie. I would love a slice of pie. Right? Things like that. We're seeing a lot of that. So in our unhoused, our uncooked bags, which are predominantly required or asked for by our unhoused population, we're seeing, can I get another candy bar? Or I see you had Little Debbie's the other day. Do you have any in Little Debbie's? We're getting those sorts of things. They're asking for more of the things that, feel good.
Right. And you talked about subsidizing budget. I know United Way, we have seen so much, particularly during COVID, but even since, where people have had to make choices about whether to keep food on the table, pay a utility bill, keep food on the table, pay all of the rent.
Yeah.
And you have a very good utility assistance program. Can you just talk about that and just the impact that has made?
Yeah, our utility assistance program is really great. I mean, we have clients who come to us who are on fixed incomes. That's the majority of the folks who are on our program for utility assistance who come to us every year. Their budgets don't work without it, right? So our program year opens sometime in October. They're there. They're emailing October 1st and saying, did you get the date for the program when it opens? And they're getting ahead of it, right? We also see a fair amount of clients who get behind, and then their utility provider says, go to Byrd Barr Place, and we can take care of your past due balance, catch you up, and give you a little bit of space. Yeah, we're on the bottom of your utility bill. If you get a shut-off notice, Byrd Barr Place is right down there. Call us. Give us a call. So the program is great. One of the things that was really hard with the current, administration and some of the cuts is the impact it would have on people with fixed income. There's nothing to replace that. If I make, $1,000 a month and I'm paying whatever, $900 a month for everything else, the only place that other money can come from utilities is food. Right. That's the only place. And we provide food once a week, but that's not necessarily enough. And we don't tend to carry things like whole chickens or things like that. We carry sort of quick food options because that's what we see people coming to us for. And although we tend to have meat, it's not big quantities of meat. So it can be a really tricky time for them.
Just a couple more questions. And one is about your upcoming gala.
Yeah.
Okay. But what I wanted to ask you before then is, with everything that you see and the work that you're doing, what gives you hope?
Yeah. That right now, I'm looking for it, right? I think we're all looking for it. With the work that we're doing, especially here in Seattle, what I see is a community that is really activated. The people in Seattle really feel strongly around the ways that they have not been served well by the city, by the state, by the, at this point, the federal is not a conversation worth having. But I think that they have a clear understanding of where the distinctions have been made on who's had access and who hasn't. And there's some really specific plans in place to right those inequities. And watching young folks and older people who've been at the fight for 20, 30 years, get there and make that happen has been really, really helpful and really profound. I'm from Chicago. And being here and watching the way that the communities here talk about justice and talk about the things that they experience, displacement, it didn't just happen in Seattle. It happened all over. But the way that those conversations are had and the way that they lead to political change and access, that's really inspiring. You don't see that everywhere.
Absolutely. And then lastly, talk about your upcoming gala.
Yeah. So it is our 61st year. Byrd Barr Place used to be camp. We're hosting our gala this year. We've got a Mr. Benjamin Crump with us. Last year, if you remember, we had Dr. Angela Davis. And this year, it'll be at the Hyatt Regency on 8th and Howell, and it'll be September 27th. That's next Saturday at 6 p.m. Yeah, I'd love to see you there. I think when we pick the people who are going to be here to lead us in our conversations, we're really picking people for the moment, for that time. And right now, with the work that Mr. Crump is doing, the civil rights work that he's doing, we really need to know more about how we can position ourselves to move that work forward. And that's the conversation we'll be having.
Awesome. Tiffany Kelly Ray, Byrd Barr Place, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
For more information about Byrd Barr Place, log on to byrdbarplace.org. That's BYRDPLACE.org. We're bringing back happy hour and hellos. Join us on October 14th at Nordstrom at South Center Mall for the latest installment of our networking series that allows professionals to mix and mingle over refreshments, learn more about the work United Way of King County is doing in our community, and about ways to get involved. The event begins at 6 p.m. For more information, log on to uwkc.org/events. Looking for a volunteer event? Join us on October 11th at El Centro de la Raza in Seattle to craft flowers and organize auction items for El Centro's annual Building the Beloved Community Gala. Take part in an exciting event that raises funds for 43 programs and services that benefit more than 20,000 individuals and families across our region. El Centro needs volunteers at 10 a.m. on October the 11th in Seattle's Convention Center in preparation for the event that will take place at the Convention Center later at 5 p.m. For more information, log on to uwkc.org/events. At United Way of King County, we are working side by side with communities to build an equitable future for everyone. Hourglass United Way is a podcast that highlights how we and our partners spend time making a difference in our communities. Our work is made possible by the generous donations from people like you. Please send comments and suggestions about our podcast to hourglassunitedway@gmail.com. To learn more about our work or to support United Way, log on to uwkc.org. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for listening. Until next time.